The Atlanta Braves are set for Game 2 of their series against the Colorado Rockies with Chris Sale on the mound against Chase Dollander. Here's your 10-minute scouting report for today's game. This is your Braves Today Scouting Report, a production of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm Lindsey Crosby. In the next 10 minutes, we're breaking down everything you need to know before first pitch. Today, it's the Braves and the Rockies in the middle game of the series, so let's get into it. Both teams have put out their lineups for the day. Not a lot of differences for Atlanta, but this is still a unique lineup for the Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr. leading off in right field. Drake Baldwin behind the plate, batting second. Ozzie Albies remains in the 3-hole despite Atlanta not facing a lefty in this game, batting third. Matt Olson is batting cleanup in the fourth, at first base in the fourth spot. Michael Harris, the designated hitter, batting fifth. Mauricio Dubon gets another start in center field, batting sixth. Austin Riley is now in this new spot against righties of batting seventh. Mike Yastrzemski in left field, batting eighth. And shortstop Jorge Mateo in the number 9 hole, manning the position while Dubon is in center field. Acuna, Baldwin, Albies, Olson, Harris, Dubon, Riley, Yastrzemski, Mateo. Again, this is a unique lineup for the Braves, the 23rd on the season through the season's first 34 games. For the Rockies, completely different lineup than what we saw yesterday because the Braves have a lefty on the mound. Jordan Beck checks into left field, leading off. He is a right-handed hitter. Brenton Doyle in center field. He is the only hitter in this lineup who has a home run against Chris Sale. He also, yesterday, was the only hitter on the Rockies team that had a home run off of Grant Holmes, and he did not face Holmes, but he will face Chris Sale today. First baseman TJ Rumfeld is a lefty batting third, so right, left. Catcher Hunter Goodman, who went deep yesterday, batting fourth. Second baseman Willie Castro, a switch hitter, batting fifth. Brett Sullivan is the DH, batting sixth. I honestly forgot Brett Sullivan was still in the league, so shout out to him there. Third baseman Kyle Karros out of UCLA has been a walk machine this year. He is batting seventh. Shortstop Ezekiel Tovar is in the lineup every day, but he's typically towards the bottom. Today, he is batting eighth. And Troy Johnston, who can also play first base and can DH, is in right field today, batting ninth. So it's two righties in Beck and Doyle, followed by a lefty in Rumfeld. Then another righty in Goodman, followed by a switch hitter and a lefty. And then two more righties in Karros and Tovar, backed up by a lefty. So no clear three-handedness lane for the Braves to go to the bullpen. For the Braves, their starter today, like we mentioned a minute ago, is Chris Sale, 5-1, 2.31 ERA on the year. Mostly earned. His expected ERA is a 3.01. His field independent pitching is a 3.94. That's the one area where he's not been as good as the actual numbers. 27.7% strikeout rate, 6.6% walk rate. It's a very healthy 21.2% strikeout to walk ratio. This is not his first start in Coors Field. He made a start in Denver last April. He struck out 10, walked none, allowed only 2 earned runs over 7 innings. But because it was the 2025 Atlanta Braves, this was a 2-1 loss because the Braves were 3 hit and only scored 1 run. The opposing starter, last I checked, is technically reliever Brennan Bernardino, but we're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Chase Dollander because this is an opener in front of Dollander. He's 3-2 with a 2.25 ERA, and his transformation from 25 to 26 has been the biggest story of the year for the Colorado Rockies. 2.25 ERA, expected's a 2.84, fielding independent pitching of 3.05. So a little bit below average in that regard as far as an overperformance, but still, even if he was playing to his expected numbers, still really good. He is a 2 fastball guy, 4-seam and a sinker combined for 60% of his usage. He averages 99 on the 4-seamer and 98.5 on the sinker. The big thing here, Jose Quintana was throwing 90 miles an hour from the left-hand side yesterday. Dollander is going to throw 100 miles an hour from the right-hand side today. What a wild discrepancy to face if you're the Braves. The things that Dollander does not do well, he gets hard hit a lot of hard hit balls. Now, he's really good at getting ground balls. Some of that is because of his slider, his changeup. He does also throw a curveball and a sinker. So he does well with getting ground balls, and so his barrel rate's okay, but he gives up a ton of hard contact. So the defense needs to be really good for the Rockies today, and that has not necessarily been their strength this season. Has been defense. The way Dollander attacks hitters, he likes versus lefties here. He likes to throw fastballs early. He's about a 60% fastball guy on the first pitch. After that, it's a pair of breaking balls, slider, curveball, and then some changeups and some sweepers. So early in the count, you're likely to get fastballs. When he is ahead in the count, he's going to be fastball dominant no matter what. If I threw 100 miles an hour, I'd be fastball dominant too. But when he's ahead in the count, that's when he breaks out the changeup. About 1 in every 5 pitches is the changeup when he's ahead in the count versus less than 1 in 10 when he is behind. When he's behind, that's when he ramps up the sinker usage. Same thing before he gets to 2 strikes, just trying to get a ground ball and get out of the outing. But if he gets you to 2 strikes, that doesn't mean you're going to see a bunch of sliders and curveballs and sweepers. He's going to throw you 4-seamers and changeups. It's an interesting kind of profile, not as common as you would think, a guy throwing 100 trying to get you out on a changeup, but that is what Dollander does. If you're a righty, it's similar, except he's a little more well-distributed early. Yes, he'll throw sinkers and 4-seamers, but he also throws sliders early in the count. When he gets behind, like most pitchers, he is very fastball heavy. That is just a kind of common thing across baseball. He's almost 80% pitch mix of fastballs, 4-seam or sinker when he's behind. When he gets to 2 strikes against righties, he's going back to that 4-seam changeup combo. It's very rare, I feel like, in Major League Baseball to see a guy who has decent breaking stuff and just not want to throw it a ton. But because he's so good at firing velocity at you, at throwing 100 miles an hour at you, the changeup plays up, even if the shape of the changeup isn't necessarily that great and it doesn't grade out that well on stuff models. The one thing to be mindful of here, there is no guarantee you are getting a fastball in the first pitch. And so the Braves hitters are going to have to be really good at identifying which fastball it is that they are getting early and if it's in the zone or not. Because like last week, when you face Tarek Skubal, you face Framber Valdez, they are 2 guys that throw a lot of first pitch strikes. Dollander does not have that proclivity to throw in a lot of first pitch strikes. So if you can get him to throw you a ball early, don't chase out of the zone, let him get behind, you can really pare down that pitch mix and you know what you're going to be seeing versus when he's ahead and he can mix in a lot of those breaking balls and things like that. When you look at the status of the 2 bullpens, Dylan Lee, Tyler Kinley, 2 leverage relievers for the Braves. They both had yesterday off, so you feel good about that. Robert Suarez did throw 17 pitches. That was his first time getting into a game in the last week. He warmed up twice in the Detroit series, but never entered. So Atlanta should have the high leverage pieces they need to secure a win because you assume Suarez can come back a second straight day. You do also have Ronaldo Lopez. We don't know how they're going to use him. Is he going to be a once-a-series guy and cover multiple innings? Is he going to be a single-inning leverage reliever? We don't really know, but you have him. My question here is Didier Fuentes. He pitched the 8th inning last night. It ended up being a leverage inning. He was warming up when it was a 4-run deficit. He came into Atlanta being tied, and he got through it in 15 pitches. If Atlanta is interested in using him as a traditional reliever, he needs to learn to pitch a back-and-back. And so a back-to-back tonight, if Atlanta is doing well in the game and it's not a 1-run game, if Atlanta wants to use Didier Fuentes as a traditional reliever this season, you could see them ask him to come back and pitch a back-to-back today. I still don't think they will, but I'm curious if that happens. If they need bulk innings, Martin Perez is available. He hasn't pitched since Tuesday. Carlos Carrasco was added to the roster today to replace Anthony Molina. He can also give you bulk innings. For the Rockies, bullpen's a little bit of a mess. They've done a really good job of distributing the work. Tanner Gordon's the bulk man. He's had 3 days off. He is up and available. But they have every other guy in this pen has thrown at least 15 pitches in the last 3 days. 3 of them were used yesterday. But closer Victor Vodnik, setup man Jimmy Herget, Antonio Senzatella, their kind of breakout setup man. All of those guys should be available today. Something to watch. The only lefty in the pen is Brennan Bernardino, and they are using him as today's opener. So I'm really curious to see what happens later. That's why Atlanta's not concerned about having Mike Yastrzemski in the lineup, because once he pitches, there is no other lefty to come into the game. And so they're using their only lefty to open the game. That's why Ozzie Albies is still batting third. It's a really interesting decision by Colorado. We will see if it works out. But outside of that, Jaden Hill threw 19 pitches. He's probably, him and Vodnik are the 2 guys with the best velocity base. So if they want a flamethrower, they can probably get him to come back. Middle reliever Zach Agnos threw 25 last night. He's likely down. What to watch for in this one? Brave Today sponsor FanDuel has this game as a 1.5 favorite in the direction of Atlanta. They expect this to be a high-scoring game. I think Atlanta's goal here, the biggest, most important thing for them, should be trying to get to Bernardino early. And we know that Drake Baldwin hits lefties well. Ozzie Albies obviously hits lefties well. Matt Olson's hit lefties well. It's really an odd decision to have your only lefty be the opener here. But Atlanta's goal should be to get Dollander behind by the time he enters the game, usually to open the second inning. They have stuck him in the first before if the opener throws too many pitches and gets in trouble. But that should be the goal for Atlanta. If they can do that, I think they can cruise to an easy win. The big thing here, Chris Sale doesn't stumble often. But when he does, we sometimes see a couple free passes handed out. And if you do that in Colorado, you absolutely can get into a lot of trouble. We saw Grant Holmes lead-off walk yesterday. That runner came around to score as part of a 5-run first inning. So I like Atlanta in this one, but you can absolutely see a path where this dangerous Colorado offense in this ballpark can make you pay. That's your Braves Today scouting report. If you want the deeper analysis, the lineup breakdowns, and everything behind the numbers, make sure you're subscribed to Braves Today. Enjoy the game. We'll be back after it with the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta and today's 3 things over at bravestoday.com.